It is the beginning of a new racing year, and to start it off, we will be talking about the Don Handicap 2 Electric Boogaloo Stakes, better known as the Pegasus World Cup Invitational. It's a nice field of 12, definitely a better looking field than the Pegasus Turf Invitational, which does not look like a $1 million horse race to say the least when it comes to field talent. But the Pegasus World Cup on the dirt does look way better. So, let's analyze this field. In post position number 1 is a horse that I have a huge soft spot for, and that is Sleepy Eyes Todd. Regardless of his actual racing record, I really like this horse. He's just really fun to watch. He's very likable. He runs in more races than anyone else, and he likes to rack up those wins in smaller stakes races. He hasn't had a big breakout Grade 1 win yet, but I really hope he does because he's a very likable character. A horse who dances as many dances as he can. More than most other horses, at least. And that's why I like him. But if we're talking about actual talent, I'd say that he still has a decent shot at place or show, because he is proven at Gulfstream Park with his win in the Mr. Prospector, and he does like a mile and an eighth with his biggest victory, the Charlestown Classic, being at a mile and an eighth. And his win in the Mr. Prospector also shows that he can handle a fast pace. He can go from mid-pack, or he can go to the lead, depending on what he needs to do. So he's versatile and likes the distance and the track. So I'd say he's a good choice for place or show, but not necessarily a win bet. In post position number 2, we have a pretty easy toss for me, and that is Coastal Defense. He started out his career at Gulfstream Park, could do no better than 4th, and then he went down to Kentucky where he fared better, getting his 2 victories. And then he tried Stakes Company, and he ran pretty mediocre, finishing 4th in the Hagyard Fayette and 4th again in the Clark Handicap. Pretty meh performances, especially considering that Churchill Downs is supposed to be a track that he really likes. So, if that is his best that he can do at a good track that he loves, then I don't see him doing any good in the Pegasus World Cup. Toss. Another toss to add to that list would be Independence Hall, number 3. This horse is meant to be a sprinter miler. His biggest victories, the Nashua and the Jerome, were at a mile, and his only other wins were at sprint distances. And his last performance was a mediocre 5th in the Malibu at 7 furlongs. And his last win, 6.5 furlong allowance optional claimer. And his best attempt at a mile and an eighth, which is the distance that the Pegasus World Cup is at, was a 5th in the Florida Derby. And now that he has steeper competition, same distance and same track, how do you think he's going to fare? Not too well. He's a sprinter miler. Maybe choose him in like the Kelso or whatever, some other sprinter miler race, but this is not the day. Toss Independence Hall hard. But next up is Nick's Go, so I should probably have more positive things to say about him than say Independence Hall and Coastal Defense. And yeah, you would technically be right, but you'd also be wrong at the same time, because Nick's Go is not a good favorite. He's not a reliable, easy, set and done favorite, because there are so many questions that he still has yet to answer. Can he win at a mile and an eighth? His best victories, the Breeders' Futurity and the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, were at a mile and a 16th. Can he go that extra 16th of a mile and win? The other, more important question is, can he win outside of Keeneland? Well, technically the answer is yes, because he did win at Oaklawn in an allowance optional claimer. But more importantly, can he win a top-tier Grade 1 race outside of Keeneland? Well, that's the big question we're going to have to find out, because both of his Grade 1 victories came at Keeneland, and he has not won a stakes race anywhere else. So that is going to be a huge question mark, and because of that, I just can't trust Nick's Go as a part of my bet. So, while I wouldn't be surprised if he did win, I think that he's too risky, and I'd recommend avoiding him and choosing other horses that'll bring you back more money. He's just too short of a favorite to really be worth anything. But on the complete opposite spectrum, you have Jesus' Team, who is a horse who has always been on the outside looking in, but he always finds a way to squeak himself into contention. He was 3rd in the Preakness Stakes, which was a huge performance, considering that he was one of the longest shots of the field. He got up for 2nd in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile behind Nick's Go, and then he went on to win the Claiming Cup Jewel, which was a pretty easy victory, and it made him look great. He just looks perfect going into this race. He looks ready to get that slice of cake as he gets ready for the Pegasus World Cup. Proven Gulfstream Park winner, seems to always be showing up valiantly at the top level recently. He's perfect for a place or show bet, and maybe even a win bet. This could be his time to shine, but that's only if you really want to test your luck with Jesus' Team. At the end of the day, though, I think many people are going to be joining Jesus' Team. He's just a great, reliable racehorse. Another horse that's on the outside looking in is Kiss Today Goodbye. He got his big victory in the San Antonio Stakes, defeating last year's Pegasus champion, Mucho Gusto, which is pretty impressive, but he still has a lot to prove, because he's a West Coast horse going to the East. And the East is always a big question mark for any West Coast thoroughbred, because, well, he's never raced on the East, and the East is very different from the West. So that'll be a big question. The other question is how well he can close, because if he can close well, he can take advantage of Nixgo's fast early pace and come home late for a great performance. But if he isn't that great at closing, then I'd say forget it. So he's a bit of a mystery, but he does have potential, but I'm not going to use him. Another horse with potential that I'm not going to use is Tax, because, well, Tax is well favored. He's 5-1, which is good odds, and it does make sense. He won the Harlan's Holiday, which is an impressive return to form, but he's just so unpredictable. He's had a couple good wins, like the Withers and the Jim Dandy and the, well, Harlan's Holiday most recently, but he's just such an unpredictable racehorse. He's just all or nothing. And the other thing is, with the Lasix span, he is, at least to my knowledge, a bleeder. I've been told that this horse is a bleeder, so the Lasix span might be detrimental to his already questionable performances. So I'd say Tax is way too risky to bet at 5-1. In post position number 8, we have a horse that has definitely danced a lot of dances in just his couple years of racing, akin to Sleepy Eyes Todd, but not as effective, and that's Harper's First Ride. Harper's First Ride is a state champ. That's basically what he is. He was bred in Maryland and has won all of his races in Maryland. In fact, he's only stepped out of Maryland a few times with limited success. His only real win outside of Maryland was a maiden claiming victory at Churchill Downs. That is it. Everything else has been at Laurel or Pimlico, so not exactly a great look. And his win in the Pimlico Special, which is his biggest victory, isn't even that great either. His only real challenger was Owendale, and Owendale was rode atrociously up on the lead when he's a closer. So he didn't even beat Owendale at his best. He just beat Owendale when he had a really garbage trip, which doesn't look too great for a horse that is supposed to be making one of the biggest jumps in class, from listed stakes races to giant Grade 1 races. Not a huge fan. Class jumping is definitely something that you're hearing quite a bit, and this is one of the last class jumpers, the appropriately named Last Judgement, who made his big jump when he went from being an allowance optional claiming winner to running in the Grade 3 Mr. Prospector. He flopped horribly, but then he ran in the Sunshine Classic Stakes, his first attempt at a route race, at 1 1/8 at Gulfstream Park, the same conditions that this race is going to be at. And you know what? He won pretty well. He won by 4 lengths, which is a good sign that he does like routing. But this definitely may not be his chance. He could pull off a huge, ridiculous upset, but that's only if you're really daring. The more realistic result is that he doesn't run too great in this race, but he gets regressed back to Florida-bred exclusive races or some other lower type of competition, and he does significantly better. He does have potential to be a router, but I don't think that potential is going to take him to the $3 million Pegasus World Cup. But there is potential to be had, and that is something to keep in mind. Just a little bit. And now we make a quick detour to the favorites. And the favorite that I like the most is Code of Honor, because he is simply consistent. Nix Go and Tax have a bit of unpredictability to them, but Code of Honor is a solid racehorse. Unlike Nix Go and Tax, he is solid all around. He gives a good performance every single time he runs. He only won once last year, but he still had great performances spliced between that. He was third in the Metropolitan Handicap, he was second in the Kelso Handicap, and then he was second in the Grade 1 Clark Stakes at 1 1/8, which is the same distance that the Pegasus World Cup will be run at. He was also third in the Grade 1 Florida Derby at Gulfstream Park at 1 1/8. So he does have potential to run a good race, but I think he also has the potential to win, because he's had many great wins over the years. He won the Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream Park, and I think he'll probably have a race akin to that this time around. He was the winner of the Dwyer, the Travers, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. He is a great racehorse, and I think this is going to be his race to really show what he's made of. But that is the last of the favorites. Now we have 2 more long shots to round out this field for the Pegasus World Cup. And the first long shot is one that most people were not expecting to be as high as 15 to 1 initially, but then you kind of take into account his other efforts, and that's Mr. Freeze. He started off last year with a second in the Pegasus World Cup behind Mucho Gusto. So, theoretically, with Mucho Gusto gone, he could go, one step further with him out of the way. And he looked like he was on his way. He won the Gulfstream Park Mile, third in the Oaklawn Handicap, but he kind of just had a bunch of unpredictable efforts. Sixth twice, won the Fayette, and then was sixth and fifth. Just a kind of an unpredictable horse and hard to really trust like he was last year. He's just kind of lost a step, and I think he deserves 15 to 1 because I don't think we're going to see another second in the Pegasus like last time. And lastly, we got Math Wizard, who I believe is simply an anomaly, or at least his win in the Pennsylvania Derby was, because that was his big claim to fame, his victory in the Grade 1 Pennsylvania Derby prior to the Breeders' Cup Classic. But even after that victory, people were doubting that he would win again. And you know what? They were right. He never really had that chance. He only got second once in the Monmouth Cup, and since then he's just been off the board in multiple stakes races. He's just a big toss for me. He just doesn't seem like he has it in him again. He's a one-hit wonder. End of story. And that is the last horse for this year's Pegasus World Cup. Final choices? I'd say Code of Honor for the win, with Sleepy Eyes Todd and Jesus' team for Place and Show. Simple as that, nothing really fancy for me. I'm not exactly a daring bettor. Hope you guys enjoyed this analysis video. Comment down what your picks for the Pegasus World Cup are, and see you guys next time.